up my street. It must be flowing on the new bitumen.
Yeah, in your street?
Yeah.
How do you know that they're in your street?
Well, we go and check on our people. When you see them lying on the footpath, you know something's wrong. What does this thing mean in the middle of my screen that says this meeting is being live streamed by Stain? Do I push a button there or anything?
They got it.
No.
Please click the got it button.
Just click the got it button.
Well, I just leave it there.
Okay.
Fripp and Alison.
Okay, if you click got it or X out of it, you'll be fine. Welcome, folks. Sorry to those who've been watching on YouTube in the comfort of your lounge room or at your desk or wherever you might be in the world. And to elected members, we've had a few technical issues here for our first meeting for the year. So welcome to the January meeting for the City of Prospect. I'd like to acknowledge that we're on the traditional land of the Kaurna people of the Adelaide Plains region and that we pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. And we recognise and respect their cultural heritage, beliefs and relationships with the land, and we acknowledge that they are of continuing importance to the Kaurna people living today. We also read you the Council Pledge. We seek wisdom and understanding as we face the duties of our united task, praying for the peace and prosperity of our city. On leave, we have nil, and apologies nil by the look of it. I'm correct there. Declaration by members of a conflict of interest. Do any members have any conflicts with any of the agenda items tonight? I didn't think so. I think there's no. Confirmation of minutes for the meeting of 14th of December. Somebody happy to move that they be confirmed? Deputy Mayor, do you wish to speak to them?
No, thanks.
The seconder. Councillor Harris, do you wish to speak to them? Any further questions or debate? I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Against? That is. All those against? Sorry, Councillor De Back, are you voting against? Oh, it's going to be problematic. Say again. Councillor Harris. Sorry, folks, we've got some glitches going on here. We've got some freezing and a few other things. I'm just going to take that vote again pretty much as a test for tonight. All those in favour, show me your hand. All those against? Yeah, thank you. That's carried unanimously. Sorry, Councillor De Backer, your feed is very slow, so your hand stayed up a long time. That's why I had to check. I don't know if that's your end or our end. Sorry, you're on mute.
I was on 4G. I'll change to Wi-Fi. It's okay.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you.
I'll just be a sec.
No worries. All right, so Councillor De Backer will be back with us in a second. Public question time. No public questions received on notice and nobody is in our gallery tonight. So we'll take it. There are no public questions. Petitions nil, deputations nil. Questions without notice, are there any? Maybe I could ask the CEO, you could tell us what preparations are underway for visitors, well, attendees at our Australia Day citizenship ceremonies and Australia Day awards, which I hope all the elected members are coming to, and the upcoming Twilight concerts.
Are you talking in specifics in relation to COVID preparations, or are you talking
in particular? Yes, there seemed to be some interest last night. So tell us what is in place to make sure that we're taking care and staff are safe and those sort of things.
So again, everyone will be required to conform with SA health-based social distancing guidelines and personal protective equipment requirements. So in other words, they'll be masked, they'll be distanced. Capacity limits will be observed to the extent they need to be. The events are being held outdoors, so that does present us with a lower risk profile than we would have otherwise had were we to conduct them indoors. But there are no vaccine mandates for attendees, and of course, check-ins are expected. QR codes are available. I'm not sure, to be honest, I have to take on notice whether we have specific QR codes available. Nathan, can you speak to whether or not we've got specific QR codes available in relation to those events?
Through the chair, all events have their individual QR codes as part of the gate check-in process. Yes.
So that's about all. it really is conforming with the SA Health guidance in relation to capacity limits, PPE and distancing.
Yeah, and I can vouch for the QR coding at the citizenship ceremonies last week. Everybody there, even though it's all outdoors, unfenced, everybody complied, and actually outdoors was quite nice out the back. Worked really well. I think Councillor Pearce was there and enjoyed the first one. So we're looking forward to those tomorrow. Thank you. Any other questions without notice? No. Councillor De Backer, are you back? I can see you there, I think, underneath the little white bar, but with no video. There you are. Okay, right. So you're back here.
My video should be on.
Yeah, video's on now. Yeah, that's okay. Brilliant. Brilliant. All right, reports for decision. We've got a few here. North Adelaide Football Club development proposal, successful grant funding, recommendations on pages 4 and 5. Is somebody happy to move it in its current form? Deputy Mayor, just to speak to it. Sorry, mate, you're on mute somehow, or we can't hear you. One of the two.
Okay. Yep.
There we go. Yep.
Good. Okay. So I think my question, more of a question than speaking to. Well, I'll ask a question first of all. My question is in relation to the $190,000 difference. And whether that means that there's a different level of securities being requested by us to the club from the club as a result of that gap.
Yeah, sure. See ya.
Yes, I'll ask Mr. Mel, if he's online, to answer that. Vince?
Through the Mayor, in regard to the security, we'll ensure the security covers the full amount of any loans drawn down. So it'll be for the full amount of the total amalgamated loan package to ensure that all aspects are protected, which is, I don't have the exact number in front of me, but it's a bit over $2.1 million that will ensure it's got appropriate securities.
So whatever that amount is, the security will match the amount, not the lower amount previously.
That's, through the Mayor, that's my understanding of the resolution as put by Council.
Thank you. Back to you, Deputy Mayor.
Second question, might be in the report somewhere, but I don't think it is. Has the club confirmed that it wants to go ahead with the full suite of work that was originally proposed through the application?
Scope question, CEO.
So in a meeting that senior staff held with the president and CEO of the club and the secretary last week, my understanding was that they confirmed verbally that they do intend to press forward with the full scope of works. And that was in response to a query I put to them suggesting that there was some discussion about the possibility that they may not proceed with the new scoreboard. But they were quick to clarify that they do still intend to press forward with the full scope of works. However, I'm quick to point out that was a verbal assurance from the club, or a verbal position put by the club, and I'm not sure we've had that confirmed in writing. Unless Mr. Kamel, you can expand on that.
We have had outlined in email form their commitment to go forward with works, but we don't have formal documentation supporting that as of yet.
Just to add to that, it's a very good question. They are not funding any of these proposed works out of their own pocket up front. They're getting a grant and they're taking out a loan through us. That's the intention. So I understand, CEO, that staff are also checking their capacity to pay that loan. So if we're worried about their capacity to pay the up to 2.2 million, the staff may recommend a lower amount, which may change the scope of work from our point of view rather than their point of view, if that makes sense. Is that correct, CEO?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, through you. I mean, it's really a question of us confirming their capacity to pay through the financials and obviously the security. So there are a series of conditions, members, obviously, that you imposed upon this process going forward back in July last year. The report that's in front of you only suggests removing one, The remaining conditions are all still expected to be met. And obviously the report anticipates a further report back to council confirming these things prior to the loan application being made. That loan application requires the common seal of council to be applied, which will obviously require a further resolution. And until staff are satisfied that the conditions have been met, and that includes security, that includes capacity to pay, we will not be bringing that report back to you. So there are a number of hoops still to jump through. Ms. Moon, do you have anything to add in relation to the financial capacity to pay question?
Through the chair, we have since received the revised long-term financial plan, 5-year plan from the club, and we have received audited financial statements for the year just gone. We will be presenting that to the February Audit Committee for review and for information and for any comments that they have. Should the club then fulfill all the conditions as per the July resolution, we will then bring forward a report to council for your seal for the loan borrowing of 2.1 million.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. It's probably a more thorough answer than you expected, but I just thought it'd cover all permutations of how the scope might be impacted. Back to you.
Thank you. Yep. So just to speak to the motion, it's exciting to see that the grant's been received, and the club is, with our support, going to get on and do some good work there. As with a few other major projects that we're involved with, I have a few concerns around the project management aspect of this. It doesn't really make it clear in this. I'm not sure whether it made it clear in their proposal to us, but it doesn't make it clear in this motion who's responsible for project management and when that's going to be kicked off and underway. We want to make sure there's a good outcome here, as we do with any other project that we're more in control of. And I'm hoping that as part of the submissions that we'll receive from the club over the next few weeks, they'll provide a detailed outline of the project management methodology and regular reporting across the lifetime of the project. But apart from those observations, in support of the motion.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Groot, wish to speak to it.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Look, I'm really happy to second this. I think it is a good project overall, and particularly focusing more firmly on women's involvement in AFL, which I think is fantastic. Sorry, SANFL. I just had a couple of questions, though. The first one relates to the new loan amount, which is now 2.1 million. Obviously, this reduces our capacity as a council to borrow by committing money on behalf of other organisations. Can I just check the extra 190,000? Are there any concerns from administration in relation to whether that's going to impact us borrowing money on future projects should we wish to, and whether that's a material risk?
My understanding, CEO, is that even with the 190, they're still within the cap that council's previously approved. Is that correct? And if you want to provide further to that?
Yes. Sorry, well, I think there's another component of that question. Yes, it's within the condition amount, but what I think Councillor Groot is asking is more around whether or not that impacts us potentially against our borrowing KPIs.
Correct.
From a treasury management standpoint. And in that sense, if that is the question, Councillor, I'll ask Ms. Moon to take that one.
Through the chair, our borrowing KPI will actually peak in the next 2 financial years as we have projected. So the 190 will have an impact on our, I guess, in terms of capacity to borrow, it will be outside our key financial indicators. Audit committee review the key financial indicators every year and with every budget, and they will make a recommendation as to how far is willing to, I guess, accept the ratio outside the targets. So yes, it will have an impact. I don't think it will be a large impact based on what we have already budgeted at the beginning of the year.
Thank you. Councillor.
Thank you. Yes, that answers my question. And so I think we just need to be aware of that if we have, or in fact, if a new council sitting here in 12 months' time decides they want to do another project, they may be hampered somewhat by this decision in terms of borrowing capacity from council. So we just need to be aware of that. And I think we just need to consider it. Second question I had was just, and it's actually not about this project, it's about the Prospect Tennis Club courts redevelopment, but it is in this report, so I feel I can ask a question on it. So it didn't receive funding. We did have $450,000 applied in the budget for this year. Do we have any sense of where that's going to go at this point?
Yeah, I think that's coming to us at a workshop.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, through you. There's a workshop, I believe, scheduled for the 8th of February. Give me a nod, Mr. Camell, if that's correct. Where we are going to address this issue. And I suspect that it may lead to some adjustments in our future capital works program as to whether or not we can still see some merit in progressing that project, given that it's not fully funded.
And
Okay.
I'm aware that the club will be writing to us soon requesting that we apply again and maintain our commitment to match the funding. So we'll have to consider that when it arrives.
Thank you. That makes all perfect sense. So not a problem from my end there. So as I said, pretty exciting. I'm a little bit nervous about the amount that we're borrowing, or that we're borrowing on behalf of the club. I would hope that the club won't come back to us a third time because clearly we don't have the capacity to do that. And I hope that the decision tonight doesn't impact our ability to do other things later on. I suspect from borrowing capacity it may, but this is also a very worthwhile project and I'm supportive of it.
Thank you. Any further speakers? Councillor Pearce.
Look, just in relation to the costs and bearing in mind that building costs are escalating as we speak, what would be the situation if when the build cost does come in, it exceeds the scope of works or the budget amount? What happens there? Do we reduce the scope of works or do North Adelaide kick in some money?
I think, CEO, it's a fairly simple arrangement in this project, unlike the last one. They're just simply borrowing an amount and that's the deal, isn't it? Is it more complicated?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, through you, that is our anticipation here, is that essentially we're a financier in this arrangement. So the idea being that, of course, they get their money and they build what they can with it. Ideally for us, they build the entire scope, but in a sense, not dissimilar to the experience we've had with Broadview. If they run out of cash and they can't find the money somewhere else or from within their own organisation, my understanding would be that they'd need to constrain the scope of works to meet the available funding. That would be, however, I mean, again, that's speculative, of course, and, but there is no suggestion that there's any sort of contracted minimum scope of works they're intended to deliver. It's just that we're borrowing the money and they're going to give us some security to secure that.
Okay.
Councillor Pearce, anything further?
No, thank you.
Any further speakers?
Yes.
To the back.
Yes, please. Yeah, so I was just a couple of questions first. One, is this going to audit committee? Because I think I'd really like them to review everything. Look,
yes, just a quick, because the director's already said that that's going to their February meeting, so yes.
Okay, sorry, I didn't hear that. Yeah, so that gives me a bit of reassurance. And again, a bit like Mark, in principle, I'm very supportive of it. However, I do have concerns just with the amount of money and our capacity. It also, the level of detail that we've got in this report, for example, there's nothing with a North Adelaide letterhead with any, assurances of what's going to come forward. So it'd be really good, as Deputy Mayor Larwood said, to get a really, really detailed report with appendix and everything like that, because I was almost tempted to lay this on the table because there wasn't that much detail in it. But if all that's still coming to us, I'd be really interested to have a look at it. It is a lot of money. I will be supporting in principle, but if all the detail isn't there, and I'd also like to see some priorities. So, for example, we'll be very disappointed if we didn't get the female change rooms, but we did get maybe catering facilities. Now, I understand that's up to the football club, but I don't know if there's any room for us to say, look, this is a priority that we can work through together. And so that's maybe a question, if that's possible.
Question. CEO, could it be a condition of our finance?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes. You can impose, right now, there's no commitment from council beyond the commitments that have been offered. So members, where we sit right now is back in January, you offered to proceed with supporting this loan facility on the basis of a series of conditions, one of which has not been met. So members, it's the reason why this is in front of you is not because we felt ready to bring this back to you with detailed information ready to go with the loan. The reason we brought this back to you is because that condition was not met. And unless council change their position in relation to the conditions, and that one in particular, but if council choose to impose a members, can you hear us? Now you
Now I
can.
can.
Okay, great. Okay. If
You've
you
only just
start
got
having
back on
echoes
for
or
a good
something
minute.
terrible happens, please cover your ears or wave, and we'll change the audio back. We're
We
having
lost you for a full
continuing
minute
problems.
at least.
Well, now we can't hear them. Can somebody else say something, please, if you don't mind?
Can you hear us, Chris?
Testing.
Yes, we
Yes.
can.
Like a disco.
I can't turn the audio off. I can. Okay, can you still hear us?
Yes.
Yes.
Pressing on, where was I? The conditions. If you impose additional conditions at this point on council, on the loan, then of course, the club may change their position in terms of whether or not they wish to proceed. They wouldn't have to proceed, of course. They could go and find alternative financing. But yes, of course, it's open to council if they wish to either to impose additional conditions.
In addition to that, I understand the state grant compels them to do the female change rooms and the function centre upgrade, and the bit that's not covered by the grant is the video screen. So I think that level of priority will be policed through the state grant process. Can CEO or director, can you confirm that?
I need to ask Mr. Kamel to take that one if I can.
Sure, director.
Through the Mayor, yeah, you're 100% correct there. The grant is very specific about the female change rooms. The grant stream was actually about bringing and supporting female sport. So the club would have to actually, through us, apply for a material change to that grant. And I suspect the grant wouldn't be available if it didn't include that component. The other elements, if council funds through loan borrowings, the intent would be that both the loan borrowing aspect and the grant requirement would be protected through a development agreement with conditions precedent for release of funds to guarantee delivery. We wouldn't be delivering unless they're actually delivering against 100% of the requirement of each of those subcomponents.
Thank you. Good question, Councillor Backer. You have the floor again.
No, that's fine. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Any further speakers? Councillor Nguyen.
Just a question. Has council had conversations with the club about looking at other avenues of coming up with the shortfall? What would their position be if council decided not to increase the loan amount?
Off the top of my head, the video screen is the one they'll drop, but I'm not sure, CEO, if we've had any more detailed discussions with them about that.
Through you, Mayor Lachlan, no, unless Mr. Kamel, you've got something or conversations you've had with them, or Ms. Moon, where we've explored potentially other options for them to pick up the shortfall of the loan. Has anyone had those conversations with the club?
Through the chair, can I just explain? We haven't had a conversation with the club. However, council actually has a resolution on July 27th to have a borrowing up to 2.2 million. So this amount that they are looking for is 2.1 million.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Nguyen.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll just speak briefly from the chair. I agree with
keep playing tennis. It's for this moment where.
Hello. Is that an external tapping in?
It's Matt. I'm Matt.
Or Matt, was it letting something squeak through the door? Just from the chair, I agree it's a great project. I think the female change room aspects are long overdue. North Adelaide has been a leader in getting footy into the Sandful. I think they won the first grand final, if my memory serves me correctly. So they're pretty committed, and the facilities are required. It's quite unacceptable what they're going through at the moment, and we heard that briefing in the lead up to our last decision. The function centre gym change around is long overdue. We know that those of us who've been around, we know that history. It will be a far better function centre upstairs, and that'll be a real asset for our entire community, not just the club. So I'm really looking forward to that. The gym I'm less concerned about, but I'm sure it'll be pretty good. The video screen I'm not as concerned about, but I do understand that their competitor clubs have video screens, and they're very successful in being able to show replays in particular. So they make the experience at the footy much more enjoyable. So that's why they want to do it, and of course some advertising revenue as well. So I think all in all it's a good project. I think if it all goes belly up, we'll have some good security. We've all spoken to the CEO about what that means, so we're going to make that much tighter than last time. So I'm confident that that will mean they won't run away. If they do, we'll have a better facility than we've got now, because at the moment it's a bit compromised by the way it's configured. So I think that's the absolute worst case, is that they leave us with a better facility. But other than that, I don't think they want to go anywhere. They absolutely want to thrive. They want this to work. It's within the previously approved cap of 2.2. We're not being asked to change that tonight. The only thing that we are asked to change is the assumption about the grant funding. And as the CEO has said, we must change that, or else the staff are not able to proceed with the discussion. I understand they are moving at pace with their application processes. They do want to have all this work done prior to season opening in April. I wish them luck with that, but they are intending to work as quickly as they can reasonably do so. I think CEO's heard from us what we want to see at that February meeting. We want to see the audit committee's opinion. We want to see really good security. We want to see precise amounts of money. We'll want to see the state grant conditions reflected in our finance agreement. And we'll want to make sure that there's a project management plan and timeframe that's realistic, and a resource in place that can make it happen, because it is, after all, on our land and in our building. And I think that's all well understood by the staff. So I look forward to seeing, hopefully, that come to us at the February meeting. If it doesn't, it means there's been some connection along the way. But I'm quite supportive of where they've got to. It seems like the final chapter of what we started. Gee, I don't know how long ago it was. 2013, 2014, I think. That long ago? No, 2008, 2009, somewhere back there. Thank you. Any further speakers? No, Deputy Mayor, do you wish to sum up?
Can I ask a question first of all, or is it too late for questions?
Accept a brief question, because you are in summing up. So, yeah.
Yep. Do we feel like we might need to add any of those statements just made then to this motion?
It's way too late for that question. So I'm pretty sure the CEO and the director have taken extensive notes. So I would suggest that if you're not happy with what they come back to us in February, that we could do it at the February meeting, because this is not a done deal now. The done deal will be when we're asked to attach the common seal in February.
Yep. Okay.
You get moved to sum up.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah. So agreed that the project's a great project, and it'll be good to hear from the football club, because I'd certainly, as an elected member, haven't heard anything formally from them with regards to, thanking us for our commitment to the project, and outlining how they're going to deliver and all those kind of things like that. So I personally found that a bit disappointing that they were, all over us, so to speak, when they were selling this to us, and when the grant's been approved, then there's been sort of crickets, really, unless I've missed an email that they've sent through, but I don't think I've got anything. But yeah, looking forward to what comes back to us in the February meeting, but in principle supporting this motion.
Thank you. That concludes debate. All those in favour, show me your hand. All those against. carried unanimously. Thank you. Good discussion, very informative. Next item, 10.2, Irish, sorry, just they have written to me because I wrote to them about their news release. So I've had correspondence, but I agree something from them to all of council would be more appropriate. So staff will take note of that too. 10.2, Irish Harp Reserve draft concept plan for community consultation round 2. Recommendations on pages 10 and 11. Somebody happy to move it in its current form? Councillor Nguyen, just to speak to it.
Thank you. Just want to thank Council Administration for bringing this report to us. Very happy the initial budget allocation was 325,000. We've doubled that. Thanking staff for putting in the application. We can do so much more with this extra money. I look forward to all the funny play equipment, but most importantly, improving the safety, security that, that has, and all the issues that's been going on at this reserve. I hope you will support the recommendation, and I look forward to rolling it out to the community for their consultation. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Pearce, wish to speak to it.
Just to follow on from Councillor Nguyen said, it's great that we've got this grant and we're going ahead with it. They've made a few tweaks after our December workshop, modified the plan. The sooner we get out to community consultation, the better, and it'll be a great asset to the North Ward. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further debate? Well, back to you, Councillor Nguyen. Do you wish to sum up?
No, thanks.
Concludes debate. All those in favour? Against? It's carried unanimously. Terrific win for the north of Regency Road. 10.3, host council expression of interest, Tour Down Under 2023. Recommendations on page 16. Somebody happy to move it in its current form? Councillor Barnett, I saw first, I think. You should speak to it.
No, I think it's most probably a sensible thing to do. I think it might be even harder with COVID to find sponsors, which has previously also been a bit of an issue for us. And I think we've substituted a wider spread of events across the city, and that's proved popular and manageable for our event staff. So for this time, I'm happy to move the recommendation as written.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Harris, wish to speak to
it? Not really much. I just want to endorse what the previous councillor has said, and it would be a big gamble. I was going to get my push bike out, but I'll leave it in the shed. And I think it's a sensible idea to let it go, and monies we do have around that area, that we concentrate on other things in the city. So it'd be great to have it, but reality is we're taking the correct step by saying no. So I endorse the recommendations.
Thank you. I haven't seen your bicycle. I'll have to come around and check it out. Any further speakers? Yeah. Councillor Brooks.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, I'm not totally convinced on this one yet. So I just want to ask a question just to clarify one statement in the paper that's before us. I just want to confirm that if we were to put in an expression of interest, that it's not binding. So I'm just interested in that, because we are making a very clear decision by not going for it right now, and we all know that. So let me ask that question first. Is it, if we put an application in and chose later to not do it, is the application binding at this point?
Take the question, CEO.
No, it's not. So it is open to council. Were the expression of interest accepted, for us to decline at a later time?
Councillor.
Okay, thank you. The second point I want to make was, should we in the future, whether it's next year or future years, decide to put in an expression of interest, it doesn't mean we have to have a street party. So the two things are very separate. So there's a street party, which we've done without the bike race the bike start or the bike finish, race finish. But we've chosen to put those things together, and it's this Tour Down Under street party that's actually cost a significant amount of money. And that money we have absolutely redistributed to other things around the city and for good, good outcome. So I'm just interested to hear what other elected members have to say. I'm not fixed on a view at this point, because I figured if we put in an expression of interest, of course, it doesn't bind us. We've heard that. And it gives us the option later on, should we want to go ahead and participate in that race start or race finish. It doesn't mean we have to put a $200,000 party on next to it. So just my comments, interested to hear what others have to say tonight.
Thank you. Recognise Councillor Backer.
Yeah, thank you. Look, thank you for distinguishing that point, Councillor Gresh, and certainly people know my thoughts on spending and things with street parties in recent years. However, one of the things I'd be really interested in, especially like with these events, I guess like Fringe and whatever, for a relatively low investment, you do get some interest in the city. However, it would be really nice if it wasn't just Prospect Road focused. So if you were going to have events, could we do something with Walkerville, have something near the ABC building, or, have some things around the city? Because it seems to be a lot of these events, again, tend to be very Prospect Road centric. Now, I understand, obviously, because of the size of Prospect Road, it's probably easier to close off the traffic and things like that. But it doesn't stop some of these ancillary events that sometimes are budgeted for, that we couldn't do, an east-west sort of competition for local cyclists or something to promote our cycle routes. So I'd like to sort of see some innovative thinking if later in the year it's a possibility. So it's just a thought, really.
Just before you leave that thought, a question was asked, CEO, about if we registered now, can we pull out? And the answer is yes. If we don't register now, can we step up? Is the reverse of that question, which seems to be what Councillor De Backer was suggesting. Is that possible?
I don't believe so, but I'll ask Mr. Cunningham if he's got anything to add.
Through the chair, the documentation's silent on it. I think it would depend on the broader level of interest as to whether or not essentially a late bid, I'd probably call it, would be acceptable or considered.
Okay, thank you. Councillor De Backer, is there anything you wish to add? I sense you may have finished, but you might have been interested in that question.
Look, I mean, I think I'm quite happy to listen to the recommendation, and I support the recommendation. However, I think, this is one cycling thing. I think we can certainly look at other cycling things should we need to, and maybe look at events that are other parts in the city. So that's really more the commentary that I was making.
Okay, thank you. Any further speakers? Councillor Ripp.
Look, as it stands, I'm going to support the existing recommendations to not put an offer in at all. And reason for that is I think just at this point, it's not COVID related. I just think even if we're spending, say, tens of thousands of dollars on these events, or even a bit, when we're saying to our community, look, we've got so much that's unfunded for the assets, we're applying for all these projects, we've got outstanding capital projects have to be done. Oh, and by the way, we've got to find all this money for assets. And on top of that, we're already stretching the events team too far as it is. I can't sort of put my hand on my heart to say, let's go and do this, or let's put a bid in for this, when I know we've got already the events team have been stretched and they're coming up with great localised events that have worked clearly last year. And I can't justify to the members in my community why we'd be spending all this money on this now when we've got asset management that's even we've got true asset management coming now, but we know that there's a lot of cost coming to us to manage our assets in the future. So I can't I can't support us putting a bid in. So I support the existing recommendations.
Thank you. I recognise Deputy Mayor had your hand up.
Look, I'm kind of a bit of a mixture of a few comments heard so far. I, unlike some of the other elected members, have always been a massive fan of this event. I think it's one of the marquee events that have really helped grow the profile of Prospect. I've been disappointed that the events that we've held have moved further and further away from being cycling related. I don't really know why that happened, but it did. And I think that we're moving further and further away from, I think, a position that we held in relation to this event. Having said that, I guess the second part is that I can see that the administration has said no, but I can't see that much investigation has gone into. It may have behind the scenes, but I can't see that much investigation has gone into options. We certainly haven't been presented with any options for an accompanying version of the terrific street party at all. So there's nothing for us to think about and chew on and work out whether it might be something that's back on the cards. So that's a disappointment from my perspective. But the realities are that the next couple of years, until we get our house in order with regards to the asset management plan and get the projects that we're currently, large-scale projects we're currently working on delivered or, close to being delivered, it does make sense to be a bit more prudent with regards to large-scale events of this like. But it feels like we've just laid down here and not given it a lot of thought. So I'm a little disappointed by that fact.
Thank you. Just briefly from the chair, I agree with all the comments that have been said, really. It is the appropriate decision at this time. I have had a hankering to do something about the women's race for some years, just because I think it deserves more profile, and I think we could do that, and it could be good for us in the same way that our association with Two Down Under has transformed people's perception of Prospect in our main street. So I don't see the leverage in the next year. I'm happy to have a discussion at budget time about whether we put it in a long-term financial plan, because it is a street party. I think it's a great asset to our city, but it's expensive. And I note that in the application, even though the women's event application fee is nil, they expect you to put an event next to it. And I think the cheapest event we've run around this is a start, and I think that was in the order of 35,000. That might have included the fee, but anyway, it's not free. Running an event, as we know, costs money. So even the women's start, I don't think we'll get it finished. A start would cost us some money. So I'll probably refer the discussion to our budget discussions about when we could bring back some form of street party and whether we have an association with Two Down Under as we've had previously. But I think this is the right decision at this time in this matter. Thank you. Any further speakers in this matter? If not, back to you, Councillor Barnett, if you wish to sum up.
Yes, I think some all good points have been raised by previous speakers. There's nothing stopping us, say through council budget bids coming up, to look at some smaller cycling events around women's and children's events, and as points being made, that could be elsewhere in the city. And I think some of the main costs previously, particularly even if you have the one of the starts or finishes or the stages, even I think without the street party, it's always security and toilets provision that seem to be the main costs that blow this out a little bit. So I think it's I think, through council budget bids and looking at other events, I think we can be a bit creative and possibly do something in that area, but not the big event, which I think COVID, hopefully it won't be, but it looks like it'll still be possibly having an effect. And the other point that's made was that I think originally we did this more as a business to help businesses, but I think they're struggling at the moment. So maybe it's still not the right time to be doing this sort of thing. But we can put our thinking caps on, perhaps. Thanks.
Conclude debate. All those in favour? Against? That is one against. So that is carried, not unanimously. Thank you. Good summing up. Like that. 10.4 Fringeland Prospect, March 22, and Art Walk, August 2022. Somebody happy to move it in its current form? Thanks, Councillor Barnett. Do you wish to speak to it?
No, I think these again have proven popular, and I think that I like the idea that, that it's somebody else that's doing it. I note that we are down yet another team member or manager in our events thing. So I think hope we can get some people on board that stay. My point is that it's somebody else that's doing it. We don't always have to, rely, as some of us said, on council doing everything. So I think this is a good way to go.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Pearce, wish to speak to it?
Yes, just quickly, I agree with the previous speaker. The art walk I participated in last year, and that was just terrific, I thought. So aligning it with the August time makes sense as well. And again, the person handling the one in March takes the pressure off our staff. I support it.
Thank you. Before I go to further speakers, I've just noticed that one or two or three elected members are turning their video off, but it does make it a bit difficult for me to chair, but just letting you know, staff are noting that as you're leaving the meeting, and that'll be recorded in the minutes. So just so you're aware of that, you might be doing it for all sorts of reasons, maybe bandwidth, or you've got a cat to put out. That's okay, but just so that's one of the things about this format. Further speakers, Councillor De Backer, I think you had your hand up.
Yes, thank you. Look, I read the report in a bit more detail, and it seemed like the basement was going to be used as a storage shed. Now, I'm really nervous about that. So a lot of the capital investment is so to allow storage to happen down in the basement. Now, we've got a bit of a history of using structures as storage. Like I know, for example, in the old stables in St Helens Park or the coach house, the old croquet club is used as storage. And I know storage is required, but I don't know if there's any other alternatives. For example, underneath the stage, there was some dead space, and even like a permanent shed, because what we're doing is possibly tying up another place as storage. And I think that would be really regrettable, because I think we'd envisaged the basement to be a lot more than that. I know obviously given COVID, the initial intention of having that sort of basement bar or whatever, can't happen because of capacity limits, but it also could be a really good space for, I guess, like a podcasting studio or, tech people. I mean, obviously there still needs to be money spent on it, but I suppose through the chair, if I can maybe ask the administration, is this intended as a long-term storage solution for activating the Vine Street Plaza?
I don't think it is. I think that the proponent for Fringeland would use it as a venue in a heartbeat, but just can't get the numbers up under the current 25% rule. But staff, is there any proposal to use storage beyond this short-term proposal?
Yeah, through you, Mayor, a lot of them know. The original proposal, so I need to speak somewhat of the history of this. The reason you're only seeing this now is because the seminal proposal came to us late last year. There was no commitment, though, from the provider to move forward at that time, and we had our own challenges, I guess, in terms of, pandemic evolution and, our own concerns around the suitability of the venue and some of the risks associated with it. However, as things have progressed, we've reached a point where this is now ready to put to you. But there was definitely early in the piece, before the additional restrictions imposed by the state government in late December, there was an expectation that this underground portion of the venue could be useful as a component of the proposal. That has obviously had to be changed given the much more significant restrictions that have been put in place since late December. So no, this is not going to typecast the basement as a permanent storage space. That's not the intention of the administration. Rather, we're looking at this as a bit of a proof of concept to how Vine Street Plaza could be used as an extension of using that facility. And for us, it's an opportunity to test the limits of what is possible. Yes, it's regrettable that we can't actually get people down there and using it in a more active sense, but we'd rather this, I guess, than nothing. And so that's why we're bringing this proposal to you now.
Thank you. Councillor.
Yeah, just further to that, thanks for clarifying that. But given that our pivot to doing more outside events in Vine Street Plaza, it would be maybe interesting to see a longer term request for storage that is at ground, because obviously there is still a level change for people activating the area. Is that something that the infrastructure team are possibly looking at?
Yeah.
Through you, Mayor Lachlan, not at present, but it's a good idea and something I guess we could turn our mind to. I can think of one or two possible opportunities for us to do that. It's a question of how much space, I guess, would be required. This may be a good opportunity, again, for us to test what is possible and what space requirements may be, I guess, expected for an activation of this type in Vine Street. Again, we're still learning about the space. Councillor, there's a lot for us to, I guess, build on out of this, and hopefully we can take what we learn out of this and move forward.
Thank you. Anything further, Councillor?
No, thank you.
Any further speakers? Councillor, Deputy Mayor.
Yep, cool. So just looking through there's an initial proposal from Arthur Inc., and they've outlined some initial considerations. They've also outlined a proposed layout and a request for support. So unless I've missed it, have we responded and confirmed any of those considerations which are, wise to have agreed to well before we approve this? So, for example, this asks for us to provide and clean the toilets. It requests a $10,000 grant from us. It also says that they intend to engage and foster relationships with local residents and traders. So just those 3 points, what have we done with those 3 points in particular? Have we just accepted this, or have we come back and negotiated? Do we have a clear picture of exactly what we will and won't do? Do we have a clear picture of how they plan to engage with local traders?
Thank you. CEO.
So through you, Mayor Lachlan, look, yes, there's been significant negotiation that has kind of informed the future steps of where this would go, and really informs the recommendation here. So the recommendation is what we're suggesting our, I guess, our support would be to this. So the $10,000 cash donation you'll see does not form part of it. The instructions from staff are that the provider has applied for and received a $2,000 funding grant from the state government to support the event, and in lieu of any cash support and utilising the business and innovation budget, we're offering some staff support and some in-kind support. Use of the plaza, for example, would be at zero cost. So, to them, that's a significant value benefit, which we're going to give them gratis, essentially, if you choose to proceed with this. And support in terms of things like cleaning, for example, that is likely to form part of it, but can be accommodated within existing budgets out of the business and innovation space. So that's what you see in the recommendations. What we're proposing, I guess, be the terms of council's acceptance of this proposal if you were to move forward. So yeah, the $10,000 cash grant is not part of it.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Thanks, CEO, for that response.
Thank you. Any further speakers? Councillor Green.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, another really exciting little project, actually. I'm quite supportive of this and will be supporting the motion. A couple of just very brief questions. On page 36, where it talks about in-kind support, Arthur Inc. requested in-kind use of facilities with City of Prospect, proposing in principle the following. And it says $200 off their fringe guide registration fees for Arthur Inc.'s ticketed event. I'm just not sure what that means. And sorry if it's clear and I'm not understanding it. Does that mean we're taking $200 off something that they're paying us, or what actually does that mean?
CEO.
I'm going to challenge. I'll be challenged to answer that unless Mr. Cunningham has an answer. So I'll hand over to him.
Through the chair, that would appear to be related to a printing cost associated with being part of the fringe guide that we're essentially looking to waive or wear ourselves so that the promotion can occur.
So we pay the fringe organisers to be included in a publication.
Well, Director, I understand we're registering a whole pile of fringe events ourselves, aren't we? So we're going to bundle theirs in with our fees.
Through the chair, that's correct. This is about our promotion and our printing costs to be associated with the fringe rather than paying fringe.
That makes perfect sense. Second question is just to clarify the public and community event space that will be open at all times to the public. It's only the ticketed event or venue social seating that will be ticketed, which will be restricted to ticket holders. Is that correct?
So yeah,
Through you, Mayor Lachlan, yes.
Okay. Last one is on page, what page are we on? 44, the basement layout. I was just a bit confused with the term stage and what looked like to be row seating in front of the stage. So I didn't think we had that existing in the basement. I presume this is only going to be used for storage. It's not going to be used for any production whatsoever. Is that right?
So I think I'll go to start, but I believe you're looking at the original proposal. The COVID restrictions mean that they can't have a venue downstairs, but
yeah,
it's included for full information. And if the restrictions lift, I expect they may come back and say, can we please do what we originally wanted to do, which looks to me to be really cool. But at this stage, that's not the proposal, was it, CEO?
Correct, Mayor Lachlan. So it comes back to the question I answered earlier from Councillor Tobacco around, I guess, the art of the possible and what the original proposal would look like. Now they're talking more about simply utilising that area as a storage space for furniture and materials related to their outdoor event.
Okay, so my apologies, I missed that answer before. So look, really good. I support it. Bring it on.
Thank you. Any further debate? From the chair, I agree. Looking forward to seeing something happen out there over fringe. Hopefully, it'll be great. It'll be less restricted and people will enjoy it, which is what we want to see happening in that plaza. There's no further speakers. I'll ask Councillor Barnett to sum up if she wishes.
Yes, I think just a lot of good discussion, and perhaps the report has showed up some unintended things like covering up and securing very important cabling that was in there. So I just hope people will support this.
Thank you. Concludes debate. All those in favour? All those against? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Next item is 10.5, the periodic review of key financial indicators. Somebody happy to move it in its current form?
Happy to move that.
Do you wish to speak to it?
Yeah, look, obviously with these, I'm comfortable with the position at the moment. I think we're doing the best we can with the key financial indicators to, again, over the last 12 months, apply for grants, and obviously we've been successful, and acknowledge the staff for the groundwork, for what they've been able to achieve in terms of getting us grants. Obviously that puts pressure on borrowing, but I think we are in an okay position at the moment where we can meet that. Obviously, over the next couple of years, we'll face other budget pressures with other projects that come, but I guess that just is a key word, discipline. We've just got to be disciplined to make sure, particularly over the next budget and one after that, that we can meet what we've said we'll do with the grants that we've been successful in gaining, plus deliver the basic services required by council, and in terms of managing our assets as well. And that's where part of that discipline could be, we look, when we see new opportunities, in my opinion, coming up for grand scale events, we need to really, I guess, focus on delivering what we promise we will for our community, providing that basic service level, probably understanding what that service level actually means. What do our community actually want, and are we delivering what they want? And I guess whenever we get to actually really consulting our community on understanding service levels, if we find that the community want more, we need to have that tough conversation with the community to say, well, if you want more, what are we going to cut, where that's going to be? And you just have to have that honest conversation with the community, because the budget is definitely going to be stretched for this upcoming budget and particularly the next one as well. So if and part of that conversation with the community could be, if you want more, then this is where the borrowings will go up as well. So there just needs to be honest conversations as well as part of that. But that's where too, with again, the next budget, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be a difficult one because we haven't really, in my opinion, to my knowledge, had that conversation with the community. on service levels to see, are they comfortable where they are? Do they want less? Do they want more? And that's where it's always a balancing act, because unless we've had that conversation, we've just got to, I guess, do the best we can with the information we have. So I'm happy to approve the current key financial indicators, and I get, yeah, just watch your space.
Excellent. Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Oh, if we don't have a seconder, it'll lapse. That'd be a shame. Deputy Mayor, thank you. Wish to speak to it?
I'm not sure if you can you hear me?
There we are. Yes, yes.
Yeah. Support the movers' comments.
Okay, thank you. Any further debate? Councillor Pearce.
I just want to clarify with the key financial indicators. I think the director might have explained this earlier, but in particular, the net liabilities ratio and interest ratio that are shown here, do they include the North Adelaide Football Club loan?
Thank you. CEO.
Ms. Moon?
Yep. Through the chair, it does not include the additional million loan. If I can refer you on page 52 of the net financial liabilities indicator, you can see that apart from one particular year, which is just on the upper target, all of the indicators are below or within the 90% target. So we are projected that it will not move too far. We will bring this information to the February Audit Committee, and Audit Committee will provide, I guess, a recommendation to Council what is their risk tolerance as to the ratio. On the question of interest cover ratio, that will have new effect because the interest that we pay LGFA will be recouped from the North Adelaide Football Club. So it is a self-funded, so it will not affect our interest ratio. But unfortunately, net financial liability ratio, we include the principal bit, even though that is fully covered by the club themselves, but the principal is included in this calculation.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, Councillor.
No, that's good.
Okay, thank you. Any further debate? If not, Councillor Ripp, do you wish to sum up? No, that concludes debate. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Just a news update. The advertisers just announced that Dylan Alcott has been announced as Australian of the Year. There's the wheelchair-bound tennis player who just won the Grand Slam, so that's pretty exciting. I think he flew to Canberra for the thing. He's got to fly back, have another tennis match, so good on him. 10.6.
Mayor, I should say Val Dempsey from St John Ambulance in Canberra, Senior Australian of the Year as well.
Oh, well done. Well done. Fantastic. Fantastic. If any of you get a phone call, let me know. Will you? I'll announce that too, just in case you're up for something. 10.6, policy review, development and public realm, urban corridor enforcement policy, community consultation outcomes and endorsement. There was a query from Councillor Barnett about some wording. I understand staff have accepted that suggestion and there's a revised recommendation on the screen. People able to see that? Can't share it. So we'll use ARM technology to show it to you. I might read it to you. Part 2, you'll see in yellow, has had the words added to the end of part 2, subject to the following amendments to the wording on page 10. 2.1, removal of the words, the following factors are to be ignored during the decision-making process and replacing with, to ensure non-discriminatory treatment, the following factors are not regarded as a proper basis as part of the decision-making process. Can I just ask, CEO, I understand the word ignored appears in 2 places in the document.
So point of order, Mayor, I'm sorry, but I can't read that. I know you've attempted to put it to the screen. Were those revised words emailed to us, or can we have a look at them somehow? Sorry, but yeah, I can't read that.
Yeah, the intention was, elected members, for you to be able to have that screen shared. Unfortunately, the owl's fallen off the perch, making life quite difficult here.
Yeah,
We'll now email it to you so
Thanks.
You can have a look.
Thank you.
Point of order upheld.
Yes.
First time in, I don't know how many years.
Well, it's got to be first for everything.
It does, yeah, it does. Yeah.
To check your emails now.
So it should come through in your email in the next minute or so. Whilst you're getting that and reading it, can I just have clarification from you, CEO, and perhaps the director, that we don't need to change this in 2 places in the document?
And the other question you can ask him, because I'm on page 56, how come we just said page 10?
Of the page 10 of the policy document.
The attachment.
I think which is the attachment, councillor.
Right.
So page 10 will be page 69 of the
Okay.
end of papers.
There are 2 references to the word ignore, Mr. Mayor, one on page 10 and one on page 15, both of which will probably need to be amended.
Okay, so the change will be exactly the same. I'll just get staff to revise the change to the end of part 2. People have got that email in front of you?
Yep.
Okay, so I suggest that what's at the part 2 where it says subject to the following amendments to the wording on page 10 be changed to on pages 10 and 15 of the policy, just for real clarity, to take Councillor Harris's point. Okay, people clear about that? Any questions on that change?
No, does that mean we're going to wipe it all off, is it? That's in yellow.
No, the yellow stays, but where it says page 10, that changes to pages 10 and 15 of the policy.
Right. Oh, that's all right.
Okay with that? Any questions? Been very well grappling with the transitions here. Okay, so somebody happy to move it in that revised form? Councillor Barnett.
Yes, I'm happy to move it. I think it provides clarity for staff and the public and those involved in development with the urban corridor zone. And I think for quite some time, we've been really wanting to make sure that this happens and that continues. So I'm very happy to move this.
Thank you. And I take Councillor Backer, you want to second it?
Yes, I would love to second it. I think it's great that we seem to have strengthened our policy, and I think taking action, I think we're very clear that we are going to take action where there is substandard or deficiencies or where things have gone awry. However, maybe just a question through the chair. I think policies are great, but it's having the finances to police them. So in effect, does this create a different service level, and will there be a budget bid to service the changes in the policy or this policy? Just a question.
CEO, I understand this is putting in writing what we've been doing since the initial motion, but I've just got some clarity around that.
Through you, Mayor Lachlan, yes, I think you're correct about that. And unless Messrs Cunningham or Camille have something to add, I'm happy to leave it there.
Your Director?
Through the chair, I can confirm the Mayor's exactly right. We have been operating in this way since the initial draft was put forward. So our one compliance officer is essentially what we need. Whilst that role is currently vacant, the one role is what we need, and that's what we'll continue to deliver.
Thank you. Anything further, Councillor Backer?
No, thank you.
Further speakers, Deputy Mayor and then Councillor Harris.
I think this is a great decision that we're moving ahead with. I wonder if we're going to receive any reporting on activities along these lines. We do get a great report regarding the status of developments and the like as well. So I think one of the ways that, apart from the funding question that was just asked and answered, one of the ways that we can keep across whether this is, an effective direction that we're going down is to see the results in some sort of reporting. So I think that's a question. Yeah, it's definitely a question.
Thank goodness you didn't ask a question about a question.
Sorry.
Theo.
So through you, Mayor Lachlan, I take it the question is there some way in which staff can effectively report on the compliance activities arising out of this policy? Is that an accurate summation of the question?
I think it is. Yeah, it is. Thanks, CEO. And the reason why I've asked it is because it's one thing to have this as a policy, it's another thing to see it in action. And I'd love to work out a way that can help us be confident that it's working.
CEO.
Through you, Mayor Lachlan, I haven't turned my mind to this, but it's definitely possible. So I'll take that as a suggestion, unless members are minded to move it as a resolution. Mr. Cunningham, something to add?
Oh, just through the chair, whilst it hasn't come to the chamber for about 3 years, we've been providing a monthly update on enforcement activities in the urban corridor zone via PDF to elected members, and now that forms part of the regular CEO update, not every fortnight, but it's an attachment to a regular part of the CEO update. So the reporting based on all of the live development applications does exist and we plan to continue.
Just to further the answer, we have been getting there, and I understand it does point out in there whether there's been an enforcement notice issued or some compliance activity requested. So if members look at the next one and are not happy with it being clear enough, then certainly feed that back to staff. Deputy Mayor, do you wish to add anything further? All right. Councillor Harris.
Yes, like the director there, I'm happy because this is a process that's now been happening for a couple of years, and the way our team has been doing it, it's if you get out there and you have a look yourselves, you'll see particularly Churchill Road, Devonport Terrace, around those areas where the multi-storey ones are coming, and partly Prospect Road, but particularly down there. A couple of years ago when we started looking at doing this, you had a lot of cowboys would come in to do these projects. They were multi-storey where you had proper construction companies doing them, but not we as individuals or as council, but the builders were sort of using quite a few people that done good on foundations and houses, but not commercial type stuff. But if you have a look now, there's a vast improvement. Still needs a lot more, but a vast improvement when they're doing it, or when our staff approach them and says, we need this scaffolding fixed, we need this done or that done. It generally, from my observation, it gets done. So I think this is good. And, if we keep going along these lines and that, we'll get reasonably decent buildings built, but they'll be built safe and happy for the residents around them. And I'm very happy with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Just from the chair, I'm quite happy with where this has arrived at. You remember that there's been a couple of attempts to get this document squared away, and I'm grateful to the staff for listening to our feedback, and I've given them plenty of feedback. You'll notice the document is structured in 2 sections, and we just went through that little change process in 2 parts to separate out the sort of the traffic management, footpath damage kind of issues from the planning approval issues, because the staff are bound by different acts of parliament or regulations in that sense. It now mirrors the report we get, which has 2 different columns to it. So just so we're all in perfect alignment, some things are traffic management and outside the site and can be managed in a way under the Local Government Act, where we can't effectively, unfortunately, have the same zero tolerance approach because we have to give people notice. Under the planning area, though, the other column and the other part of this policy, we can and have adopted a zero tolerance approach, and the staff have stepped into that space quite willingly with our backing, and that's going reasonably well. It's not an easy task, as you'll all appreciate. So I'm grateful for the staff for getting this document nice and clean, and I look forward to seeing further enforcement activity. I also think it's worth us sharing the intent and practice of this document with people in our community who are a bit anxious from time to time, just to let them know there's a really strict policy around how people do things of scale in our community, and maybe direct them to it or work through the policy with them so they can see how we go about things, and show them the report if they're interested, because I'm sure some of them will be, particularly if it's in their street or their neighbourhood. So don't forget that you're able to access this policy and report yourselves and share that. Thank you. Any further speakers? No, Councillor Barnett, did you wish to sum up?
No, I think, again, quite good comments. And I know that many of the residents down along Devonport Terrace and Churchill Road have been very grateful that we've had that particular officer employed to do all this. And we had then received very detailed reports about what was happening, and that was, I think, available to the residents on Council's website reporting. So I'm very pleased that we're continuing going down this line.
Thank you. That concludes debate. All those in favour? Against? It's carried unanimously. Okay. Next item. Item 11, general business of an urgent nature. Is there any general business of an urgent nature? No. We'll move on to item 12, reports for information. We'll move these on block unless somebody wishes to withdraw them for individual debate. If somebody wishes to withdraw item 12.1, mayoral monthly activity report, Councillor Barnett. Somebody wished to withdraw item 12.2, the disability action and inclusion plan, Councillor Harris. 12.3, the curbside waste initiatives resources 6-monthly update. No. And does anyone wish to withdraw 12.4, the bi-monthly progress report on page 99? No. Great report. I've already commended staff on the clarity around that. Somebody happy to move on block, then item 12.3 and 12.4? Councillor Ripp, no debate on block. And do I have a seconder? Sorry, I saw Councillor Groot. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Thank you. So it's a bit like watching the Brady Bunch here, trying to keep tabs on everybody. But, anyway, Councillor Barnett, item 12.1, the mayoral monthly activity report on page 80. Are you happy to move it to get it on the floor, or do you have a question to start with?
No, I'm happy to move, and I just noted if the Mayor could elaborate more on what the asks were in that was discussed at the meeting with the Honourable Joss Teague, MP, Honourable Rachel Sanderson, Mayor Fricker, and our own CEO Chris and yourself about the Main North Road / North East Road elections. So if you could just perhaps elaborate a bit more on that.
Yes, happy to. Members might be aware that through ERA we've got an association with a few councils, but Town of Walkerville in particular across our eastern boundary. There's been some interest for some time in sorting out the traffic management along southern Main North Road between Scotty's and Fitzroy Terrace. We're aware of the upgrade project by Scotty's to create an extra right-hand turn into Nottage. We were previously informed by the department that there's a study of the Main North Road Fitzroy intersection, and what we've asked to do as a joint approach is for the government to do a study of the section of road between Scotty's and Fitzroy Road, because it's quite narrow in its lanes. It has no cycling accommodation whatsoever. The footpaths are not that conducive to people wanting to walk, and there's a lot of empty car yards that have been for sale over the last 2 or 3 years that are going nowhere. So we've suggested to Minister Teague and the Transport Minister Wingard and the local member and the Labor candidate and the Labor shadows for those same ministries that government purchases those empty car yards with a longer term view of significantly widening that road to increase accommodation for motorised traffic, cycling and walking. They have received that very well, and they're looking into that. And whilst we were working together, we've also tried to re-enliven our previous project that some elected members may remember along North East Road, particularly between the ABC building and the Collinswood shops, where we've done an economic development report some time ago to say that, well, the next step we think is probably a public realm upgrade, but to get that moving, we'd need a traffic management study first for the department to be satisfied that they have what they need, and then we'd need a planning upgrade, because we haven't done that corridor like we did the other three main roads. We haven't touched that one, and make sure the community is involved. And then after that, we need a public realm upgrade, like has been very successful on Churchill Road. So we've approached the Minister for Planning, who is Minister Teague, to say we want him very much to be part of that, and the Shadow Minister as well, should they form government, as a joint project between State, Town of Walkerville and City of Prospect. So those are those two specific items. I now ask the CEO, the staff have asked us for what we think should be our election asks on a more global basis for the City of Prospect. And we've made those suggestions. I understand a document is coming together. And we'll just have an update, CEO. Where is that document and when are the elected members likely to see that in its fullness?
Yeah, so through you, Mayor Lachlan, a little bit disappointed and need to apologise on behalf of the staff that this isn't ready yet. We've been pushing very hard to get it done. Obviously some challenges, but making no excuses. I do hope that you will see this form at least in a content setting by the end of this week. We probably still have a little more formatting to do on it. Nothing in it should surprise you. It's all stuff that I think as a council there's been support for and desire to advocate for in the past. So you will see something by the end of this week for you to review.
Thank you. Councillor Barnett, does that provide an answer to your question? Thank you. Do you wish to speak any further to the item? No? Okay, right. Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Rick, I saw first. Do you wish to speak to it? No? Any further debate? And I'll put that motion in. All those in favour? Against? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. Next item, 12.2, Disability Action and Inclusion Plan Update Report. Councillor Harris asked for it to be withdrawn. Are you happy to move it, Councillor, or do you have a question?
No, I'm happy to move it, and just wanted to make some statements about it. That was all.
Yep.
So I'm moving it, and there's one particular bit I'm looking at, page 83, Council's Disability Access, the advisory group down the bottom. I'm glad to see that they're going to talk to some people most probably the next 2 days, because it will be the end of January, and we might get together this group and have a meeting sometime in February, which is good because it'll be just towards the end of our term on council. So in other words, a little bit disappointed, but glad to see something's happening. The one other reason I wanted to raise in that particular thing is last night we had a council meeting and we talked all about traffic, and we talked about carers and various sort of parking things. Well, these are issues that this group can most probably look at and have recommendations. So if we had been up 12 months earlier, it would have, I believe, would have helped of talking about these sort of things. So I'm glad to see, hopefully within the next 3 weeks, something's going to be moving on that. And above and beyond that, I'm very happy to move it and see what we can do.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Nguyen?
Yeah, echo the same with what Councillor Harris has said. With the 3 expression of interest that we received from the community, do we have a bit of background about, are they community members, are they residents, are they local business owners? Do we have any information on that?
Thank you, CEO. Ms. Moon?
Through the chair, we have to date received 9 expressions of interest. They come up from all walks of life. We have, just in summary, 3 from local organizations providing support to people with disabilities. We have members from NDIS, and we also have members from NDIS who are Indigenous, of an Indigenous background, who also have a disability. So we have that nomination. We also have 5 from local residents who live experience of disability. So they are our local residents from various disability, from hearing and vision impaired. And we have one local resident who worked in the disability field who has also put up the name. So we now have 9 at the last time I checked. And our terms of reference indicated that we will have 10. That will include the elected members and the mayor. So we will go look through the participants.
Thank you. Councillor Nguyen.
Oh, that's fantastic. We'll have like a great group of people with with a lot of experience and knowledge, and that will be really good to shape our, our policy and planning around this group. I look forward to attending the meeting in February with Councillor Harris, along with any other councillors if they want to attend. So I look forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further debate? Councillor De Backer.
Yeah, just briefly, yeah, it's good to see the sort of advisory groups coming together and the projects team coming together, and you really hope that sort of it's embedded in things like the projects that we're delivering. I guess like Irish Heart Reserve, are these things inclusive? And I'd be mindful of maybe getting some younger people involved as well, because sometimes these things can maybe that's a question through the chair to Director Moon, if there's going to be any young people that may use our play equipment or facilities.
Ms. Moon.
Yeah, through the chair. Our terms of the draft terms of reference on page 93 actually did focus on, I think that includes young youth or young people. So at this stage from the list, I haven't actually see anyone of that category, but Liz Gunn, who is doing most of the communication work for us, will actually go out and specifically look for the gaps that what we don't have within the terms of reference, the draft terms of reference at the moment. So she's actively looking to fill that gap, what we perceive as the terms of reference.
Thank you. Councillor.
Yeah, look, that's great. So it's good to hear, because I think it's a really important thing that, again, all our projects need to be looked at by the advisory group, because it needs to work as well as it can for everybody. Just on that, we had as Councillor Harris mentioned, we had quite an important workshop last night. I did ask if the CEO could make the workshop available live online like we are tonight, and that wasn't possible technically. Now, we are the smart city, and I think fundamentally we need to be able to do technology well at this stage to people that are at home that may not be able to come in for whatever reason, and that should just be business. So I didn't find that, the best practice, and I think we have to consider that it's not just for us. These workshops are actually for our community, and I think having the technology now where we can make it live is a really, really good thing for our community. So maybe just take that on board.
Noted. Any further debate? Okay, Councillor Harris, just to sum up.
Yes, thanks. I bit on the light side. I won't say all walks of life, because some people might be in a wheelchair, so they might not be walking. So I'm glad, and particularly what Alison has just raised, that some of these things, and I know a couple of people in my area that they would be very happy to see things online, because to come out in one in actually a bed and the other one in an electric wheelchair, it's not that easy getting around. And to me, they're very important. And just on that note, when certain government was going to try and knock off some of the buses, one of our residents up in Brussels Street in electric wheelchair specifically caught those buses, but he couldn't come and complain. He got to me, he sent someone to see me, but he couldn't do that because of his disability. So this most probably be a real challenge, this whole bit here, a real challenge for us as a council to put in. And I'm very glad of some of those people that Ginny has pointed out, and hopefully we all vote for it, and hopefully in this next 12 months it'll make life a lot better or easier for some of our residents and visitors. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes debate. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Thank you. 12, 3 and 4 we have done. Council member reports and briefings. Are there any? No, that's been the case. I won't ask if you all had a happy Christmas and New Year because it was all a bit weird, really, wasn't it? Item 14 is the notice of motion by Councillor Stephen Ripp, public toilet facilities in the City of Prospect. Councillor Ripp.
Yeah, I will read it out if people would like to. More than happy to do that. So look, I've called here that the City of Prospect Council Administration provides a report to the March 2022 Council meeting which highlights A, via a map and list, the location of all council maintained public toilets in the City of Prospect and the location of all non-council maintained like facilities if known, i.e. public toilets not under the care and control of council, including petrol stations, etc. B, for each public toilet facility maintained by council, information as to accessibility, mobility issues, and overall scheduling of maintenance, cleaning and management. For non-council facilities, who is responsible generally rests with, and I've put a question mark there. C, the amount allocated overall to maintenance of these council facilities in their current annual business plan and budget. And D, are there any plans or strategies in place to look for opportunities into the future to provide for additional council maintained public toilets? And have there been any thoughts as to where these are to be located? How is this prioritised for various locations? And look, this has come to me over time and also in a recent discussion I was having with the Mayor, but particularly earlier feedback that I was receiving from a number of residents that were concerned that were wanting to access the Collinswood Shopping Centre and wider precinct as to the accessibility of nearby council public toilets. And I know at the time I had a discussion with a fellow councillor and also staff, and they said, well, unfortunately in that precinct, that's obviously private business or private businesses, and we are unable to, I guess, service that demand. Now, I looked at that and I think too there's a lost opportunity there. We've got a whole lot of people visiting a particular site like that as a precinct, or if you have a look at another precinct like Broadview, and you know they want to know, i.e., where is the nearest public toilet? Are council able to provide extra services? And that service in that area could be a sign saying, if you're visiting here, please note that public toilets are accessible 200 metres down the road. No one knows and the residents don't know. So I thought, well, taking on board that, why don't we look at this for the whole city? You know, where are our council maintained public toilets? How are they open? What times? Are they accessible? Are there mobility issues? And we might find this one pocket of issue I was having around the Collinswood Shopping Centre precinct might be a wider issue in the city in terms of accessibility for public toilet facilities. But until we have the data, until we have the information, we won't know. So this is why in its initial stage, I'm calling for a report just to look at this type of thing. And it could be, you know, any business district, any community club around there. Are there public toilets like accessible for non-sporting club members, or are they not? You know, we need to look at it across the whole board. And part of it, I want to know too, and this is where part D comes into it in terms of looking at our plans and strategies into the future. You know, if we know that there's holes in our community where we need extra public toilet facilities in terms of playgrounds, in terms of looking at Irish Harp, you know, we're building this facility there, we know it's going to attract more people. You know, do we need the provision of public toilets in that precinct if we know that an upgraded playground is going to involve a lot more people accessing the facility? Again, I don't know, and that's why I think we need to start with this as an initial starting point. I'll leave it there.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Harris, wish to speak to it.
Yes, just that I support it. I think it's a good idea. The Collinswood shops, I know, is a very big area where people do ask, and certain shop people that work in shop have approached me, and they didn't want their boss to know, but they said they have a lot of problems with some people using their toilets out the back. And I'm not going to say it's a bakery or anywhere, but those sort of places up there. But when council does do this and have a look, please don't count that cesspit behind the grog squad at North Adelaide Football Club, because that should still be burnt to the ground. Apart from that, I support everything he just said. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Barnett, wish to speak to it.
Yes, I support this. I went on there's actually an online national public toilet website that you can go and look at all around Australia. Well, I believe you can also look over in the UK as well, but seeing I'm not likely to get there in the very near future, I restrict myself. And if you do look at the map of prospect on that national public toilets website, we have got great gaps. So I think it's worth looking at. And also, I'll find the link. I'm not sure if I included elected members, but some time ago when we were looking at Vine Plaza, and I said about public toilets access there. And I found there are some actual local South Australian, or they're based in South Australia, and you can have some fantastic artworks done on public toilets, and they can be like unisex and for those with disabilities as well. So I think it's well worth to look at.
Thank you. Councillor De Backer. Sorry, I can't hear you yet.
I was going to propose an amendment.
Yes, your amendment.
All right, I just need to switch between screens. So do I stay on when I switch? Just hold on. So in principle, I do support the councillor's motion. However, I'm just wondering about the onus on staff to look at non-council maintained facilities, because that could be a really long list. And at the end of the day, I think, you know, it's really key that we promote the assets we do have. And that may be that, you know, we could open up to the council, the community to share that information. So my amendment would be for via a map and list the location of all council maintained public toilets in the city of Prospect and the location, and then stop, because I think non-council maintained and the rest shouldn't be. I'm just trying to think. So the second one I support, and third and fourth, yeah, so it's really just the first one. So actually eliminating the non-council maintained like facilities if known, i.e. public toilets not under the care and control of. And I just think from a resourcing point of view, and our, I suppose.
You come back on screen.
Yep.
Thank
yep.
you.
So that's my proposed amendment, but it's obviously up to the, you know, mover and seconder to accept that or not.
I'm happy to ask them. Did you wish to speak any further to it?
No, look, I think it's an absolutely great idea, but I'm just conscious of the responsibility on staff to look at all those options where our community might be in a better place to do that.
Thank you. Okay, the suggestion, as I always do, is a mover happy to incorporate that change.
Just so I can clarify, it's just in terms of point 1A and deleting and the location in the second line. So the rest of that bit just dealing with the non-council maintained facilities.
Yeah.
Did I hear?
Yeah.
There'd be a full stop after the word location, and
Yeah.
the words would be deleted after that.
Yeah, I'm happy with that, to accept that.
Correct.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Harris, you happy to accept that change? That's accepted, and now seek leave of the meeting. All in favour of that, accepting that change? Against? Thus becomes incorporated into the motion. Thank you. Councillor De Backer, you still need the floor.
Look, just to support the motion, I think it's a great idea. And if we can use existing mapping, like the toilet map that already exists, instead of creating our own, I think we'll put the data in there, and we can always scrape off a static map if we need that, or a link to the toilet map. That would be great. So support the motion.
Thank you. Any further speakers? Councillor Nguyen.
Thanks, Councillor Ripp, for the motion. I think it's great. As a young mum, you know, with children out and about, it's always really good to know where the toilets are. So I really support this motion.
Thank you. Just from the chair, I have had complaints over the Collinswood area from people. I think not just because it looks and smells like a shopping centre but doesn't behave like one, but because the options around there are limited. Therefore, I believe we probably need to work out some solution. Whether we should fund it or not is an excellent question. But in the Prospect Village heart, council provides the only public toilets along the strip. So we need to think about that as when the report comes back. I'm a bit disappointed about the amendment that now became a change, because I think the map will have gaps in it if we don't know where there are other toilets that are available in service stations, because the on-the-run facilities are 24/7, whereas our public toilets are locked up at sunset. So elected members might just want to dwell on that when the map comes back to us, that we might perceive that there's a gap when in fact there might be a perfectly serviceable toilet maintained by somebody else at their cost, not the cost of ratepayers, that's open for longer hours. So anyway, staff will deal with the motion as it's now been revised, but I think that's valuable information that we would want before we make an investment decision of potentially $300,000 to $500,000 to build a toilet. Other than that, I do think it's important that we map these things out and that we understand where the gaps are. And at the same time, we can have a look at the opening hours of them and the security of them, the condition of them, and the disability access issues associated with them. It's high time we had a good look at this matter across the city. So I thank Councillor Ripp for the motion and I commend it to you. Any further speakers? No, Councillor Ripp, do you wish to sum up?
Yeah, look, thank you. Look, originally I wanted obviously to have both points of part 1A there, but I could understand the backers' points there. And also there are some private businesses, if they do have a public toilet, that you actually are required to go and buy something in their business to use it. So I think it gets into murky waters. But look, I guess we'll wait and see if the report comes back. If we feel there are strong gaps and we need to go out further and look at the ones, there's no reason in the future why we can't look at them. But I think let's get this back to us originally and then we can look at it and then make decisions. So please seek your support. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the debate. All those in favour? Against? Is carried unanimously. Thank you. Questions with notice. Item 15.1, Councillor Stephen Ripp, the Davies Terrace footpaths.
Yeah, I'm assuming you need me to just read it out. Is that right?
Please.
Yeah, sure. Sorry, let me just pull it up because my screen froze. Sorry. Thank you. Yeah, following question. So, question: could the administration please provide an update regarding the Davies Terrace footpath situation and what future works, in brackets, if any, are being proposed?
I've been provided with the following answer, which will become part of the minutes. Progression has been made on a draft concept design for Davies Terrace footpaths. This concept design is grounded in addressing the current planning and design code vision for possible future development in the area. Furthermore, Council Administration have prepared cost estimates in alignment with the concept plan to be presented to councillors at a workshop to be held on Tuesday, the 1st of February 2022. This will provide councillors with an opportunity to provide feedback on the progress made to date. Subject to feedback at the councillor workshop and community consultation on the project, it is intended that the footpath and water sensitive urban design, the WSUD, works for Davies Terrace are completed this financial year. Okay, so there's the answer to your question, and of course there's no follow-up questions or debate on the answer. So hopefully that answered your question, Councillor. We now move to item 16, confidential items, the CEO update on the restructure and probationary KPIs, which is sent out separately. And I'll now ask for someone to pass. The initial recommendation is that we go into confidence. So somebody happy to move the order to exclude the public. Councillor Ripp, could you speak to it?
Yeah, can I just check if we shut this meeting off and go into another meeting to do that? How will it work for Zoom?
If this is approved, yes, we'll give you instructions about that.
Thanks.
I have a seconder. Deputy Mayor, do you wish to speak to it?
I think a link has already been sent through for us to join a separate meeting.
Yes, we'll give you those instructions in a second. Any further debate on this item? Councillor De Backer.
Yes, is there a 5-minute break in between?
That's it. Oh. If I didn't say that's not related to this item, I might get a point of order, but that's a good suggestion. We can do that. Get out and get back in. Any further debate on this item? If not, given that there's been no debate, I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Who seconds it? Sorry.
Deputy Mayor seconded it. All those in favour? Against? This is carried unanimously. Thank you. We'll now go into conference. This Zoom meeting will be shut down. Thank you for those who've been watching, for your attention, and the staff for your participation. And we'll have a 5-minute break. Please find the link. If you can't, please get in touch with me or the CEO, and we'll catch you in